So in other words, Govardhan is a place of Madhurya Rasa, as well as being a place for Sakya Rasa and the cowherd boys. So on Govardhan, there are trees and creepers, and they serve Krishna also with their flowers, pollen, honey, nectar, buds, and sweet fruits of various types. It has various minerals, red chalk, vermilion, red arsenic, and haritala, dear to Krishna. And they decorate Krishna's body. And this helps increase the desire of the gopis. So if you look in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll find descriptions of Krishna. And he often has various minerals, dhatu, minerals, red chalk, vermilion, red arsenic. So this is part of his pastime. So when he's a cowherd boy, he decorates himself with these various minerals. And so the Govardhan supplies the minerals of various colors, like white, black, red, yellow, etc. So we have various fragrances as well, not just colors, but fragrances. Of course, we have musk deer, and the musk deer leave their musk there. We have kumkum there, and camphor. And so these are all supplied. And also we have agulu, which is a very famous scent. There are also sandalwood trees, that is chandan. Now chandan is famous in the Malaya hills, but then another aspect of that, there's also snakes there. So the snakes like to sit under the trees because it's cooling. But in Govardhan, there are no snakes, only sandalwood trees, no snakes. But if the snakes appear, no poison. And even if they have poison, it doesn't have any effect. It all gives joy to Krishna, so no problem. On Govardhan, because of obstinacy, one stubborn gopi was there. One gopi left Krishna, but seeing a snake, she immediately returned to embrace Krishna. So in this way, the snake also serves Krishna. And so the gopi comes back to Krishna, and then Krishna embraces her. So on Govardhan, some of the stones are best sapphires, that's the blue stone. In other places, they're emeralds, which are green. In some places, rubies, which are red. In some places, they are crystals, which are clear. And thus, all these jewels are useful for Krishna's pastimes. So when Balaram sees golden stones, like topaz or yellow sapphires, then he thinks Radha is there, and so he doesn't go there. He stays away from that place. When Radha sees white crystals, she thinks Balaram is there, so she also avoids that place. So, on Govardhan, which is the best of servants, Krishna, thinking that the effulgence is coming from Radha because of the gold nuggets, he thinks Radha is there, so he goes towards the gold nuggets. And Radha, thinking the sapphires are Krishna, they approach the sapphires. So Krishna is the sapphire blue, and the gopis are golden links on a necklace of Govardhan. So they are like the golden links on a chain, and Krishna is a sapphire on that necklace, Govardhan. The pastimes of Krishna with the gopis and Govardhan are like children, never separated from it. So in other words, the pastimes and Govardhan are inseparable, and always there's some pastimes with Krishna and the gopis there. And thus, let all men glorify Govardhan. Yeah. So as I mentioned, Upadesh Amrita, Rupa Goswami glorifies Vrindavan, but in Vrindavan he glorifies Govardhan. Superior to the forest of Govardhan is Govardhan Hill, where it was raised by the divine hand of Krishna and was the site of various loving pastimes. So here we have the pastimes of the gopis. The Bhagavatam doesn't mention that, it mentions the pastimes of cows and things like that, but actually it's also a place of Madhurya Rasa. To the east of Govardhan lies a pond called Dan Nivartana, which means levying taxes. Remembering this place, Krishna immediately attains beauty as he trembles and his hairs stand on end. Because this is the place where he demands yogurt from the gopis as a tax. East of this pond is a powerful place where the rasa dance is performed many times. Remembering this place called Chandra Sarovara, Radha and Krishna both causes the dance absorbed in Madhurya rasa. So though we are familiar with the rasa dance described in the Bhagavatam 10th canto, from 29 to 33, those chapters, there are many places of Ras Leela in Vrindavan. Every night they have, all year long they have, for every night they have Ras Leela. So there's not in one place, many, many different places throughout Vrindavan. So this Chandra Sarovar is one of the places where they have a Ras Leela. The nature of Ras Leela is defined as a circle dance. People get in a circle and then they start dancing. Yeah? So that's what a rasa dance is, special dance. To the west is Dan Ghat, made of fine jewels, which is situated among the places where Krishna performed eating pastimes, which causes delight. At this place, Radha and Krishna have many playful verbal exchanges. So they often speak to each other and joke. Who would not be astonished by their pastimes of quarreling to extract taxes at this place? Even Radha and Krishna, repeatedly hearing those words, dance with their minds and bodies. So the joking words are quite significant because they add to the rasa. And this is one reason why birds and cows and deers, though they have devotion to Krishna, don't really develop rasa because they cannot speak and joke in this way that we see between Krishna and the gopis. So this gives a great depth to the rasa. So cows can moo and birds can chirp and whatever, but they can't really converse and use words in a very subtle way to produce rasa. But this happens with Krishna and the gopis. Govardhan is shaped like a peacock, and Govinda Kun in the south is its tail. On the neck is situated Manasa Ganga, where Radha and Krishna always have both pastimes. So that is also still available. We have Manasa Ganga in this area near Govardhan. This is kind of a rough map of the place. And I think that Radha Kund and Shamagund are the head, the eyes, the eyes. So we have Manasa Ganga. If one somehow hears about their both pastimes, the pastimes force to take possession of the ears, one cannot give up hearing those pastimes even by force. So this, some of the pastimes on the boat are very famous, where Krishna rocks the boat and all the gopis get scared. On the bank of Manasa Ganga, there are Madhavi Kripa pavilions, which are filled with the beauty of the three worlds. There, Radha and Krishna experience Madhurya Rasa, the place manifests in their hearts at all times. So not only have the lake itself, Manasa Ganga, but we also have pavilions like the Madhavi Kripa pavilion. And of course, then we get Shamakund and Radhakund. Radhakund and Shamakund are Govardhan's eyes, which are filled with prema for them. Govardhan, which nourishes the cowherds, gopis, and cows, shines with the sweetness of spring and Krishna. So this Radhakund and Shamakund are glorified even in Shruti. This is quotations of Shruti glorifying Radhakund. And in the Upadesh Amrita, Radhakund is also glorified. Above all, the excellent Radhakund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosia prema of Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this Radhakund at the foot of Govardhan hill? So Radhakunda is very famous. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to Vrindavan, was looking for Radhakund. Most of the places there were being lost. And so he told the Goswamis, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, to rediscover all these places which are mentioned in the scripture, but didn't seem to exist anymore. So they began that work, but before that, he came there, and then he was looking for Radhakund, and nobody knew where it was. But then finally he discovered the place. And so that place is where we have the present Radhakund, that it was in a paddy field. And so he discovered that place, and later on it was built up and became famous now. Radhakund and Shyamakund are the splendorous root of all activities of Madhurya Rasa. They are the ultimate seat of an ocean of beauty. They give pure sweet water and joy with a flood of beauty. So we usually think of Madhurya Rasa and Vrindavan and Rasa Leela, but actually the essence of that Madhurya Rasa is in Radhakund and Shyamakund. The two kundas are mines producing jewels of prema. They are the seed of the jeweled creeper of pastimes. They are the very form of sweetness and rasa. How the two kundas shine with beauty. So very, very special. By looking at Radhakund, Krishna sees and realizes Radha. By looking at Shyamakund, Radha sees and realizes Krishna. The wise say that by seeing these two kundas, one can immediately attain Radha and Krishna in a perfect manner. Since Radha and Krishna suffer intensely in separation because of difficulty in meeting, they take shelter to the two kundas and become saturated with the rasa of meeting each other. So when they can't meet each other, Krishna goes to Radhakund, and he's satisfied because you'll see Radha there in the kunda. And when Radha is separated from Krishna, then she goes to Shyamakund, and she sees Krishna there. So then in separation, they get some consolation from these two kundas. I surmise that Radha, out of great joy on seeing Krishna, turned liquid and became Radhakund. So in other words, Radha, out of her prema, turns into liquid and becomes Radhakund. Krishna, out of great joy in seeing Radha, turned liquid and became a kunda, a Shyamakunda. Because of that, the two kundas have names and qualities of the couple. So in other words, Radhakund is non-different from Radha, and Shyamakund is non-different from Krishna. Out of great compassion to people of the world, Radha and Krishna became these two liquid kundas so that people could experience the couple's sweetness. Therefore, the devotees in great joy bathe in those waters to experience the sweetness. I consider that the two excellent kundas are the prema of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, the fortunate devotees immediately bathe in the two kundas. Just by bathing in the two kundas, they bathe in prema. The two kundas also bear their names. To the north is Lalita Pramoda, the bower of Lalita, in the form of a lotus with a cottage made of jewels. To the northeast is Vishaka Pramod, the bower of Vishaka made of flowers. So all around Radhakund, we have the bowers of the separate Astasakis. So north is Lalita, northeast is Vishaka, and Lalita is made of jewels, and Vishaka is made of flowers. To the east of Radhakund is Chitra's most colorful bower. Chitra, of course, means colorful. So she has a colorful bower. Chitra Pramod, colorful because of variegated leaves and flowers. To the southeast is the delight of Indulekha, the bower of the full moon. Indu means moon. So this is like a full moon. South of Radhakund is the excellent bower of Prema, which gives joy to Chapakalata. When Krishna resides there with Radha, Jatila cannot see her, since
the bower is golden. Champakalaka means, of course, like a champaka flower, which is yellow. So when Radha's there, no one can see her. So Jatala comes looking for her, can't find her. To the southwest is the bower called Neelakunja. Neela, of course, means blue. A bower made of sapphires, which gives joy to Rangadevi. Not seeing Krishna where he's seated with Radha, Jatala quickly leaves after praising Radha. So she can see Radha there and Krishna's next to her, but because it's blue, she can't see Krishna. So she doesn't criticize him. To the west lies the pink bower of Tungavidya, which gives her joy. To the northwest is the bower of Sudevi, made of emeralds. Its color is brown. Floating in the water of Radhakund is Anangamanjari's astonishing jewel pavilion composed of Anuraga. Without good fortune, who can attain that place? So in this way, all around Radhakund, we have all these bowers of the gopis, and they're all different colors and have different personalities. So as I mentioned, these bowers are mentioned in different places. So Krishna's Kaviraj has a description in Govinda Lilamrita. In the north we have Lalitas. In the northeast we have Vishaka, made of flowers. To the east we have Chitras of various colors. So these are all the same as what Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying. Southeast is Induleka, it's a white lotus made of crystal. South is Champagalata's pavilion, golden. Southwest is sapphire, Rangadevi. West is rubies, Tungavidya. And northwest is emeralds for Sudevi. So more or less he gives the same description. And Anangamanjari has a pavilion like a lotus on the water. So Vishwanath Chakravarti later on has written Krishna Bhavanamrita, which is also describing the eightfold pastimes of Krishna and Radha throughout the day. So he also has a description of all these different kundas. So he has Lalita in the north, ruled by Kuvera, Vishakas in the northeast, ruled by Shiva, Champagalatas in the south, ruled by Yama, Indulekas in the southeast, ruled by Agni, Chitras in the east, ruled by Indra, Rangadevis in the southwest, ruled by Nairitya, Tungavidyas in the west, ruled by Varuna, and Sudevis in the northwest, ruled by Vayu. So these devatas are actually the devatas of the different directions, which is common in normal, literature or whatever like that. Oh. Okay, so we also have Kamyavan. Oh, what was this one here? Okay, that's just a description. So we have the various, around Radhakunda, we have the various pavilions or kunjas of the Asasakis with different colors, etc. At Kamyavan, Radha and Krishna revealed great sweetness in performing hide-and-seek pastimes. When the Sakis spoke of these pastimes, Radha and Krishna became stunned like figures in a painting. How astonishing. In that forest, there's a beautiful deity of the sun god, worshipped by Radha. That place is called, what's it? Vanuvasa. Radha and her friends saw the sun god, and the sun god had opportunity to see Radha. The many astonishing places, such as the bowers belonging to Krishna and his beloveds in the major 12 forests, are places of great beauty and great tears in Lakshmi's heart. So all throughout this area, we have bowers, forests, kundas, etc., all of which are suitable for Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So we have the 12 major forests, but we also have minor forests, or upavanas. Along with the forests, we have 24 smaller forests belonging to the Lord, which are famous in the Vedas. There in the forest named Kokila Kanana, Krishna used a sound like that of a cuckoo to send messages. From this, it derives its name. These are also described in this Vraja Bhakti Vilasa of Narayan Bhatta. The pastimes, forms, and abodes of Radha and Krishna are the incomparable sources of all bliss. Vrindavan shines supreme in sweetness in relation to their pastimes, forms, and abodes. Though it exists in the material world, it is beyond the material world. That has been described to a small degree in the 3rd chapter of Vraja, Riti, Cintamani. So the idea here is that the description of all these different places, just with trees and mountains and rivers and kundas, etc. It's also in the material world, in the Vrindavan that we see today. We have Nidhuvan, we have Vrindavan and Kokilavan, etc. But it's also part of the spiritual world, and it's eternal. So we should never think of it as just being material. It's actually part of the spiritual world. So this is the description of Vishwanath Chakravarti. This is a short work, so it's not complete. And we'll have other descriptions, more elaborate, of different aspects of this. We'll have different pastimes described in Govinda Lilamrita and Vishwanath Chakravarti's work on the Astakala Lila. We have Kavi Karnapura's description of pastimes also, and in other works. Yesterday, we described all about Radha and her special bhava, or Mahabhava. And of course, I mentioned that the gopis have Mahabhava as part of Madhurya Rasa, and the queens of Dwarka do not have Mahabhava. So Mahabhava is unique to the gopis. But then some of the cowherd boys also have Mahabhava, but generally it's the gopis who have this Mahabhava, which is very intense prema. So the prema itself has various levels. So one was called Ruda Mahabhava, that's the ordinary one. And then we have Adiruda Mahabhava, that's the more intense one. And then in Adiruda Mahabhava, we have 2 types, Modana and Madana. So all of this is defined by the intensity of symptoms of prema. For instance, we hear about how the gopis, when they see Krishna, then they begin to curse their eyes because when they blink, they cannot see Krishna, and it feels like a yuga. So the idea of a moment's separation feeling like a yuga, that type of idea is there in Mahabhava. So, as I said this, we have the normal intense Ruda Mahabhava, but when those symptoms become even more intense, it's called Adiruda Mahabhava. And it has these 2 types, Modana and Madana. So, in Modana, Radha and Krishna both exhibit extreme sattvika bhavas, which are involuntary symptoms like fainting, crying, changing color, choking of voice, trembling, etc. So 8 sattvika bhavas are there, but they become extreme, and so they cannot suppress them, and they're rather continuous, and they may appear all at once, all of them. So very extreme. So that's present in Radha and Krishna. Yeah. So this Modana appears in Radha's group, and not in all the other gopis, but in Radha's group. That is her particular group, not in Chandravali's group or others. Madana is the ultimate activity of the Hladini Shakti. It is affectionate, endowed with all auspiciousness, and is most excellent. So, Modana becomes Mohana in a state of separation. So when they're together, it is Modana, and when it's they're separated, it becomes Mohana. Modana becomes Mohana. So the sattvika bhavas become more intense. than even that when they're meeting. So here it describes the Anubhavas. Krishna faints during the embrace of Radha, whatever. Krishna's desiring happiness. The beloveds accept intolerable suffering when they design Krishna's happiness. The beloveds accept intolerable suffering in order to make Krishna happy. The universe becomes disturbed. Animals weep. The elements of the body long for Krishna's association. And we have what's called Divyoonmada, in which many symptoms appear. And generally the Mohana appears in Radha. These effects are unique qualities which arise from Sanchari Bhavas called Moha. What is Divyoonmada? This is called divine madness. Complete bewilderment with remarkable symptoms. In the Bhagavatam, when Uddhava sees the gopis and delivers the message, one gopi begins to talk to the bumblebee. So that is part of this Unmada state. So we have Udgurna, there's no control of various actions. And when we have the Chitrajalpa, that's Radharani talking to the bumblebee. So we have a mixture of anger, etc., and all sorts of chattering arising. And Madana, this is another special state. Essence of Vladini Shakti superior to Mohana, making all bhavas shine, continually present in Radha. So this is very unique to Radha, this Madana state. So all the bhavas become manifested to the utmost state. That is the Sattvika bhavas, the Vyabhachari bhavas, and the Anubhavas. So this is a supreme condition, always manifests in Radha, sometimes internally, sometimes externally. So in union, it takes on wonderful, astonishing qualities, and it produces all sorts of pastimes. So that is the special quality of Radha, this Madana, extreme states of all the bhavas. Okay, so that ends here. Any question?
Maharaj, the Govardhan description, some places we see Govardhan is treated as a servant of Krishna, Haridasavarya, the best of the worst. But also we see that Govardhan is non-different from Krishna, is Krishna himself. So what is the mood in which we serve Govardhan? Is it as a servant of Krishna or Krishna himself? Because we do have Govardhan Shilas, we worship. I think it's a bit unique to our Sampradaya. So what is the approach the devotee should have?
So we have both visions of Govardhan, and that's because usually, of course, is servant glorified in the Bhagavatam, etc. But in the Govardhan Leela, when Krishna told the people to offer all of Indra's ingredients to Govardhan, and they began to circumambulate, then Krishna expanded himself and became a form of Govardhan, and he accepted all the offerings. So he took another form on the top of Govardhan, and then he ate all the offerings. So then he's also non-different from Govardhan. So we can worship Govardhan either as a manifestation of Krishna, or we can take it as the servant, as described here, where he's supplying the water and the flowers and the fruit and the caves and minerals, etc. Either way.
Is there any specific deity worship rules? Like when we have Shalagram, there are specific rules. So is there a specific rules for Govardhan Shila worship?
Well, because it's not scriptural. Lord Chaitanya took a Govardhan Shila and gave it to Raghunath. So that kind of began that tradition. So there's no scriptural evidence for it, but we can just worship like a regular deity.
Is it only for Radha?
Yeah.
Krishna doesn't have the same feeling for Radha?
Well, Yeah, this is particular for Radha, Madana, special quality of ecstasy. Because she is the personification of Hladini Shakti. And this is the essence of Hladini Shakti. So she is the one that displays this.
So is there any specific rasa which is equivalent to that for Krishna, like which Krishna has for Radha?
Well, we have the other thing. What is this? This all Divyamala, again, is also for Radha and persons like that. So maybe Mohana, possibly. Yeah. So Mohana, that aspect is Krishna can have those aspects as well.
It is like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so when he comes, he enjoys this mood.
Well, of course, Lord Chaitanya, because he is Chanda Avatar, he doesn't explicitly show himself as Radha or Krishna or whatever, though he is actually both. But he has very intense symptoms. But obviously, he's not acting like a gopi and wearing gopi clothing or whatever like that. Huh? But we can say the manifestation of symptoms is also unique. So we have Satika Bhavas manifested in Puri, where Lord Chaitanya, during the Rath Yatra, when he's dancing, he would fall on the ground like a stick, like a flock on the ground. So very intense Satvika Bhava, fainting. Then perspiring is one of the Satvika Bhavas, and devotees will perspire, whatever like that. Lord Chaitanya perspired blood. Blood would come out of his thing instead of perspiration, so that's a very extreme symptom. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami describes that such symptoms are not seen in anybody except Lord Chaitanya. Is such intensity love. So this is equivalent to Radha's state of ecstasy, something that is completely unseen. Another symptom is tears. Devotees cry. When Lord Chaitanya cried, the water squirted out of his eyes like from a water gun, like this, and sprayed people. There were very strong, currents coming out of his eyes like this. So nobody's seen such a thing before. So very, very remarkable Satvika Bhava. Of course, we have the other symptoms. When he went into the, sometimes his body would shrink up and the limbs would go inside like a turtle, like a tortoise, like that. This is completely unseen. Other times the limbs would separate from the joints again. I think that was when he went into the ocean and they pulled him out of separated joints or something like that. So these are, then later on he came back to normal. So these are all very extreme symptoms of ecstasy.
Thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, I just have a question regarding Govardhan Parikrama. So we see when we go to Vrindavan, some people are doing Govardhan Parikrama in the vehicles, some are doing on foot, and some are doing Dandavat Parikrama. So just want to understand, like, is by doing Dandavat Parikrama you get some more spiritual benefit, or only just by doing Parikrama you get the benefit? How do we understand?
Yes, any act we can do to show devotion for Vrindavan or Govardhan is wonderful. To live in Vrindavan itself is an act of bhakti itself. And it's one of the 5 main angas of bhakti is to live in the dham. If we can do more than that, and we can do parikrama, fine. If you can do parikrama bare feet, very good, but it may be a little painful. And if you can do parikrama, of course, very good, but it's also very painful. So one could do various things, all of which is fine because it's a respect for Govardhan. According to your capacity, whatever you can do is fine.
So all are on the same level, or like?
Yeah, well, it depends on your intention and your devotion. That's the main thing. So you could do parikrama, doing your dandavats all the way around, but if you don't have devotion, what's the use? It has some effect, of course, but it's not so good. If someone doesn't do that but has great devotion and offers a flower to Govardhan, better.
Based on yesterday's class, I have one question related to the free will. So compared to the material world where we have a very little free will, the spiritual world, is there any gradation of the, do we have more free will there because there are already devotees serving Krishna, or is there a difference, or is it the same?
Well, in either case, as a human being, we have free will here. Everyone in the spiritual world has free will. The difference is it's not covered by ignorance, and it's all related to Krishna. So whatever free will they have, the choice is always for Krishna. Should I serve Krishna rasgullas or gulab jamuns? Not whether I should go out and enjoy my own food or whatever like that. It's always related to services related to Krishna. So that's the free will there. How I can please Krishna. And we can do it in different ways. So each devotee has a particular way in which they want to serve Krishna. And Krishna accepts that. In the material world, as animals and as plants, not much free will. They just accept everything. When we become a human being, we're expected to have free will as an adult. As a child, not much. That's also accepted even in society. If you're a child and you commit a crime, you don't get the punishment. If you're an adult, you get the punishment. Why? Because your free will isn't developed. So as an adult human being, you have to get the punishment if you do a crime. So free will is manifested there. So the same operates in terms of karma. So as a child does the act, not much karma. If you're an adult, you do an act, karma. Now again, there's a problem here because we have adults in Tamagun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun. And people in Tamagun are very covered over with ignorance, so they're like children almost. So they get less effect from activities. So that's why in the Varna ashram system, the Sudras are a little bit free. They don't get punishment, whereas a Brahmana, he does a certain act like touches meat or something like that, and then he gets real bad result. If a Sudra doesn't get any result. So according to your guna also, then we get various levels. So if you reach sattva gun, your free will is supposed to operate nicely. And you also choose scripture to follow. So you've got a great advantage. So you can choose according to scripture. So that's the advantage of your free will in sattva. If you're in tamagun, it's more difficult. So the only solution to that is, so there's a little bit of inequality there, because your free will is quite limited in tamagun and rajagun, where it's not in sattvagun. So we can say the compensation for that is that the Sudra should follow the rules and not think too much. And if he follows the rules from a higher authority, then he's safe. So that takes care of his free will. His free will operates only within the rules there, and he doesn't have to think too much. But he got the free will. And if you're a Brahmana, then you got all sorts of free will. But if you follow scripture, then there's no problem.
You told us that in the spiritual world, they don't know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Does that mean that they worship demigods?
That's a Gokul or Goloka. If you're in Vaikuntha, you're very aware Vishnu is God. He's supreme. Yeah.
So you're mentioning about based on the guna, Brahmana, Shudra as a lesser. So if we take Manuspati, so if Brahmana is at a higher pedestal with the consciousness or guna wise, so why more number of restrictions have been given to the Brahmana than the Shudra?
Okay, yeah. Well, because the Brahmanas are in sattva, and they also accept scripture, they have more knowledge, less covering of ignorance, then they're expected to have higher standards of control. So therefore, more rules. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And because they are in sattva, sattva means that they don't have such desire for material enjoyment. They want to go inwards and discover Atma. So they're more detached from the material world. So it's easy for them to follow all the rules, be renounced, and do things like this. For the lower gunas, tamas and rajas, it's very difficult to control the senses, control the mind, restrict your eating, all this, very difficult. So they get lesser rules.
So Shudra will be doing more of bad things and then going away from it. And
Well, he's allowed a little more leeway, but also there are restrictions by scripture. So he's not completely free. He has to follow certain rules. At the same time, he has leeway, so he can drink, he can eat meat or whatever like that. But there's also a limit. He cannot kill any living entity he wants. There's restriction on that. He cannot kill human beings. He's got some rules to follow also, but it's less than the Brahmana. There's common rules for everybody, and there's more rules for the Brahmana.
Right. In addition to that free will question we were answering about, so given that in Kali Yuga most people are in the Shudra level or below,
Yeah.
so the question is that is generally for Shudra, as you said that just follow the rules, higher authority.
Minimum rules.
Yeah. Or rather, you're guided by somebody all the time. So what, and also on the other side, we talk about how the Sambandha Jnana is very important. You need to use your intelligence to understand Krishna, otherwise you won't practice. So on one hand, we say just follow it blindly, just whatever authority says, you go with it. On the other hand, it seems like you have to use your intelligence. So what role the intelligence plays inside Bhakti? I mean, human intelligence and law.
Yeah. So on one hand, we're talking about Varnashram system and Gunas and Sudras and whatever, okay? So people with less intelligence, they get a set of rules, you follow that. If you don't want to follow that, you're not in the Varnashram system, and then you follow the rules of the country, basically, which are also minimum, like Sudra rules, but less than Sudra rules, maybe, because they have even more things, bad things you can do, which are not permitted for the Sudra. That's the minimum standard. When we come, and of course, and then as you go up, you have more rules. The Brahmana has more rules to follow. When we come to Bhakti, then it's a little bit different. But in one sense, we do follow rules also. But anyone can take to Bhakti. So if you're in ignorance, and you're a Chandala or a Mlacha or a Sudra or a Vaishya or a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, whatever, you can all take to Bhakti. So it doesn't have regard for the gunas. Whereas Karma Yoga is subject to the gunas. And if you're a Sudra, you can only do Sudra activities. You can't do Brahmanical activities. You're limited in how much you can practice. If you want to do Jnana, only someone in Sattva Guna Brahmana can do Jnana Yoga. Nobody else can study the Vedanta Sutras. And same with yoga. You have to be Sattvic. So there's limitation there. Bhakti, everybody can do. By doing that, we surpass all the gunas. So then we don't have to follow the rules of Varnashram for the Sudra, Brahmana, anyone. We don't have to follow those rules. It's explicitly stated in Bhagavatam. Takta Svadharmam. You give up all your Svadharma, it's not a sin if you're dedicated to Bhakti. That doesn't mean that we break all the rules also. We're not obligated to follow all those rules, but we do those rules which are favorable for Bhakti. So therefore the person, whether he's Sudra, Mlacha, or whatever, takes to the process of Bhakti, he will follow what is favorable for Bhakti. So generally things like four regular principles, favorable for Bhakti, so we follow those. So in that sense, the person, whether he's Sudra or whatever guna, if he takes to Bhakti, then he has a slightly different set of rules to follow. Principal rule is serve Krishna, surrender to Krishna, and do those things favorable for that surrender. The what?
Pandas which are there.
Pandas in Jagannath Puri.
Oh, Jagannath Puri.
So they just behave without any rules and they will do.
Really? Maybe.
Since they will with the deities and also.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Are they allowed because they are in Raganuga platform?
Oh, I see. Well, I don't think they call that Raganuga. They have their own standard, that's all, which is quite different from Pancharatric standards. It evolved through historical tradition or whatever. We have the Sabharas worshipping, and then later on the Brahmanas came and worshipped, and still the Sabharas can worship, I think. They have certain privileges for, I think they're the ones that carry the deity out on Rath Yatra. There's the Sabhara group, which are pig herds at one time, but they were worshiping the Lord first, so then they get some privilege, like that. So they have particular traditions there for worship, which are not pancharatric or whatever. So the rules are a little bit different. So, of course, we can criticize, and even, I think, Ramanujacharya wanted to introduce pancharatric standards because it looks so irregular, but then Jagannath didn't allow it. He ended up in Kurmakshetra, I think, yeah? He woke up in Kurmakshetra, and he couldn't institute, pancharatric rules there. So it's a little bit of a unique system there with those pandas and the rules they follow, etc. It's a little bit different. No, I don't think I have a concept of Raganuga. But of course, we see that the worship is not exactly Vaidhi Bhakti either. And it has an element of personalism in it and intimacy with the deity, and the deity responds like that. So we have a lot of stories like that. So in a sense, it's something like Raganuga. So they have an intimate relationship with the deity in many cases. For that reason, of course, the worship of Jagannath, Prabhupada also recommended, instead of getting Radha Krishna, you have Jagannath deities, because Jagannath is so merciful and he accepts the sabharas and he has intimate relationship with his devotees, so then he's a little more relaxed in the rules. So therefore Prabhupada said, okay, you can have in your house, you have Jagannath, and he'll accept the worship.
From an understanding perspective, I'm asking this question. Like the rules that you mentioned and all the spiritual things, like when we try to implement or adapt them, like we go with Guru or Shastra or combination of both in terms of how we interpret and adapt them. But what happens is over a period of time that adaptation also gets diluted in terms of how we do it. So is it something like reconciling back to what the instructions given or what the rule says versus how we implement? How does that reconciliation process work?
Yeah, of course, when we begin the process of bhakti, we follow the rules, etc., and we establish standards. And of course, even our society is going to establish standards or whatever. And over time, things can change. And because society itself changes, sometimes the rules have to change also. And so we get different rules at different times to some degree. So which rules can we change? Which can we not change? That becomes a little bit of a controversy at all times. I don't know how much has been evident in other societies or other movements, but I think in the modern world, it will be a problem with all movements because society changes so quickly nowadays. If we take society from 2,000 years and 1,000 years ago, it's not much different in India. And even 500 years ago was not much different. Even Lord Chaitanya was living, they had their varnashrams, even the Muslims were there. They were still following their basic rules of varnashram, with the Brahmanas, Sudras, Vaishyas, etc. Not much was changed. So that went on for thousands of years like that. No change. But then within that last 500 years, it got changed radically. And within the last 100 years, again, radical changes with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then the British came, and then we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we have printing presses, and we got machines, and then we get Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, we have the First World War, the Second World War, and all these things. And after that, changes take place more rapidly. So society has changed radically within the last 50 years, more than it changed for 2,000 years. So in the last 50 years, we have all sorts of disturbances in society and changes and different rules, etc. So then necessarily, to some degree, we can't have exactly the same rules applied in the present day as even 50 years ago. Something changes. So we see Prabhupada was in, 1960 something, 1970, 1975. Now it is, 45 years later, 50 years later almost. It's over 40 years later, so almost half a century. And within that time, things have changed remarkably. When Prabhupada was there, what he did, typewriter. Is there typewriters still existing in the world? Maybe in India, a few. Even in India, I don't see any. Then he came from the typewriter to a dictaphone. This big thing they were carrying around, all the servants were carrying these things, and there's a microphone and a dictaphone, and you had to take it off, and then you had to recite, and then rewind it, and do all these sort of things. That also was not there in the modern world. So when Prabhupada was there at the end of his life, finally videos came in. But when Prabhupada's time, it was all films. So everything had to be filmed on an 8mm camera or something like that. And after that, videos came and so many other things came. So the world has quite changed, not only the scientific things, but then society also changed. So radically. So when Prabhupada was there, okay, society was more or less the same as it was 20 years ago or whatever. But after that, then society began to change also. And we get all sorts of new movements. We get women's liberate, what do they call it? Feminism coming up, and the women demand equal rights and everything. So we get women in the army, which was never there before. Women generals, even, like this. We have equal rights to be this and that, whatever. So you get all sorts of different things. We have women politicians, very prominent in many countries. So that was never there, even when Prabhupada was there. So society changes a lot. And then we have to adopt bhakti in the movement to all these different changes. How much we can change, that's the whole question. How much we can change, how much we cannot change. So it's a serious question we have to ask. And that's why the whole question of women gurus comes up. Nobody thought of it when Prabhupada was there. They wouldn't ask the question even. They didn't assume it existed. But then the whole idea that women are equal, and then they say, there should be women gurus also. So that comes up now. It wasn't there when Prabhupada was there, so nobody asked him the question even. But that's the question now. So it becomes a debatable thing. Should we or should we not do? Mm-hmm.
Maharaj, as you mentioned that visiting Dham is having its own spiritual benefits.
Yes.
Like Vrindavan. So we are living away from India. Like you see us like we are more materialistic. Are we attached to material? That's why we are living away.
Oh, well, even in Lord Chaitanya's time, not everybody went to the Dham. Some people stayed in Bengal, they never went to Vrindavan at all, even in Lord Chaitanya's time. And Janava, who was Nityananda's wife, she went twice actually, I think. Once or twice she went to Vrindavan, walked all the way and walked back. But many people didn't go. They just stayed in Bengal, for instance. So it depends. Even at that time, it was recognized, and not everybody can go. They do have commitments and responsibilities elsewhere. So Jiva Goswami says that, living in Vrindavan is one of the angas of bhakti, and especially in Raganuga bhakti is quite prominent. But he says if you cannot live in the Dham, you meditate on the Dham, that's all. So that's the substitution if you cannot go. Oh, just as this morning, I think we had the tirtha. So the feet of Lord Chaitanya are the shelter of all tirthas. So you may not be able to go to, the tirthas in India, Vrindavan, Mayapur, or other Badrinath or whatever, especially if you're in South America and you're poor, you don't have any money to go all the way from South America to India and go back. But Lord Chaitanya's feet are tirtha. So you just worship Lord Chaitanya, you get the benefit of all the tirthas.
This lesson that we learned is that even the pavements are made of gems and
Yes.
every little element of nature surrounding Krishna and Radharani. And there's something very marvelous and wonderful about it. So is it like obviously a deliberate comparison or reference to chapter 15 in Bhagavad Gita, where obviously the material world is the inverted, distorted form of the spiritual world? So that's how we have to understand this particular portion. Because obviously our pavements are all concrete. And
Concrete.
Yeah.
Well, we can say that the original world is the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world we have places and we have people. So in those places there will be rivers and trees and mountains and towns and roads and whatever, all spiritual and all perfect. So they're all most beautiful. So therefore they're described in terms of gems and whatever like that. So the material world is a dull reflection of that. Not everything is there, but we have roads and trees and mountains, etc. But they're all made of material elements which are all destructible and imperfect. That's all. So things are there, but they're, let's say, in a grosser, temporary form. And they don't automatically have all beauty.
We just had a discussion
tremendous change, like how we were before. In the last 50 years, a lot of things have changed. Even the health of a human being has been changed a lot in the last 50 years. Nowadays, we all get a lot of chronic diseases. If one has not reached stage of Nishta, it is this diseases is like doing bhakti with all these diseases becoming more difficult, Maharaj. So, how a devotee can, even not in Nishta stage, is able to do bhakti and can reach at least Nishta and go.
Well, yeah, in Kali Yuga, we have many obstacles, many difficulties for bhakti, but we have more difficulty for karma or jnana or yoga. So all the processes, bhakti is easiest. Yeah? And in bhakti, the easiest is nam sankirtan. So this is the compensation. We may have all these obstacles and whatever in Kali Yuga, but we take shelter of the holy name, we can be saved from all of that. So this is the most powerful way which can overcome all the different obstacles.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Just to ask, like in this Kali Yuga, we are doing Mahamantra chanting 16 rounds, which initially, a few more years back, they were doing like 64 rounds and things. Same with that with the parikrama. You said like Shyamakunda, Radhakunda, or Radha and Krishna themselves. So by doing a parikrama of those two, will be the same benefit as doing a whole parikrama of Govardhan?
Right. Well, each has its particular benefit. So here, of course, Radhakund and Shyamakund are glorified as the ultimate, also in the Nectar of Instruction. So they're the ultimate tirtha because they embody the prema of Radha and Krishna. They're the eyes of Govardhan, which is like a peacock or whatever. So they're the very essence of everything. So whatever you do for Shyamakund and Radhakund is considered to be supreme, and it's the most powerful. So you chant your rounds at Radhakund or Shyamakund, and that's considered the most powerful thing.
Just a question. In the chanting of 16 rounds, earlier it was 64, then it was reduced to 16. With our kids now growing and with this ever-changing world, will it further get reduced?
Oh yeah.
Just thinking from a kid's perspective.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's another, what we could say, would be a controversy in one sense. But because Prabhupada established it, we don't really want to change that because he explicitly said that. 16 rounds, so that was one standard. So we don't change that. We don't change the regulator principles. Yeah? So those are two things which we kind of fix even forever in the future, like that, as standards for ISKCON. Now, if you don't want to take initiation, fine. You can choose any standard you want. You can chant 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 5 rounds, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So that's also there. It's just if you want to take initiation, then we have a certain standard. So that's the standard in ISKCON. It's not the standard in Gaudiya Math. They have no real standard. You can chant 4 rounds or whatever you want. So it's a little bit different. But Prabhupada set that standard, so we keep that as an internal standard. Of course, in scripture it says that you can chant once Hare Krishna, very good, but if you chant constantly, it's much better. So we have to set some standard of, minimum standard or whatever. In some places, maybe, because of the circumstances, maybe it's in Antarctica or Arctic or something, whatever, and it's such a struggle to survive, maybe they could reduce it to 8 rounds or something, So exceptional cases may be there also.
And also the people who are in Raganuga, if there is no chanting.
Well, actually, they should chant more. Because they're more absorbed in Krishna. Yeah. There's no rule, but they should chant more because they're emphasizing attraction to Krishna, meditation on Krishna, etc.
My question online. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandat Pranam. Thank you for yet another wonderful class. It was blissful to hear about Govardhan and Radha Krishna. I have a question about Jagannath. As Jagannath is Krishna in separation of Radharani, why do we keep slightly lower in the altar than Radha Krishna deities?
Oh, I think that's a convenience for home worship, maybe. In some temples, of course, we have Radha Krishna separate altar, like in Los Angeles, that was established there, a separate altar, and then we have Radha Krishna and Gorni time, like that. So that's just a convenience for the home, actually. So actually equal in one sense because Krishna is in separation.
Maharaj, does Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maya also have their own planet in Goloka?
Who, Jagannath? Apparently, yes. Yeah. That's it? Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj ki.